Hi there, good noon and welcome to another session of our most important questions. So we have reached a quarter century, seriously. Started a while ago and this is definitely a landmark number, and I am absolutely amazed at your support and your feedback. So make sure that you keep sending your love and your support, and I will continue to create more and more questions for you. If you are new here, I welcome you to BYJU'S exam prep channel dedicated to your success as an aspirant. We have just this one goal, and that is to help you achieve your dreams, your goals. आपके करियर, कॉलेज से रिलेटेड चीज़ों को आपको पूरा करने में मदद करना, दैट इज़ व्हाट ड्राइव्स अस. और अगर आप यहाँ नए हैं तो यार चैनल को सब्सक्राइब ज़रूर कर लीजिएगा, बेल आइकन प्रेस कर दीजिएगा, ताकि जब भी हम कोई भी सेशन करें तो हम इसको आप तक पहुँचा पाए. So don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon. My name is Vikrant. I am your personal coach for all things related to English and communication. I also dwell into the psychological aspects of preparation, and I hope to bring all that expertise to contribute towards your journey, towards your goal. Hi Sahirday, how are you? Gautam, Nishant, Vanshika, Anish, and of course Sonali. She's been very regular with these sessions. So shall we start? So we plan to focus on reading comprehension today. So you'd see two passages. The first passage will have more of specific detail and vocabulary questions. I'm focusing on these because, okay, admittedly they are easy, लेकिन वो ना हमारी एक retention वाली ability है ना, उसको test करने में बहुत help करते हैं. So they test, they give us a feedback whether we have become good at retention or not, generating a mental overview or not. And then the second passage will have a lot of indirect questions, the kinds that get asked in the CAT very frequently. So passage 1 will definitely help you in some respects, and for today's session I'm treating it as a warm-up, and then passage 2 will take you to the next level. So ready? सानिया says English suits you more. सानिया, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, मेरी हिंदी भी उतनी ही अच्छी है जितनी कि मेरी अंग्रेज़ी. और मेरा ये मानना है कि सिर्फ भाषा को जानने से आप एक प्रभावी वक्ता नहीं बनते. प्रभावी वक्ता बनने के लिए और भी बहुत कुछ चाहिए, और मुझे लगता है कि मैं हिंदी बोलूँगा तो भी वो सब कुछ लेकर के तो आऊँगा. बट हाँ, आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर अकस्टम्ड टू हियरिंग मी स्पीक इन इंग्लिश because I teach English, and one of my goals is to increase your exposure to English. So we work on that. So let's take a couple of deep breaths, literal deep breaths right from your stomach. I will join you. And then center yourself, remain in present, and let's start. So once you have read this paragraph, let me know and I'll take you over to the next slide. Let's go. Sahirda, I could not understand the question. Could you try reframing it? How to restart VRC from for good practice of RCs? I mean, can you just expand on this a little more? Or aise, you don't even need to send this question here. You can reach out to me directly and drop it in the forum. Okay, ready? Next one. Took me a little longer, isn't it? Okay, here is the next paragraph. So we are getting a lot of biology based passages in the CAT of late, and therefore I'm just trying to ensure that you get more exposure to this particular area. हम में से ज़्यादातर लोगों ने biology पढ़ी नहीं होती है यार, तो hopefully this will make you better equipped to deal with the subject matter. Fantastic, Anish. That was quick. Okay, here is the next one. Good, good, good. Good to see you guys reading at a pace that is absolutely commendable. If you guys do it, you would be able to read the entire passage in around 2 minutes, which is what we are targeting. Let's see who reads this first. Fabulous, huh, Ritik? Last message in the previous paragraph and the first one now. Wow. Okay, here is next. So this is the last paragraph. After this, we will have questions. Ready for the questions? Okay, so here is your question number 1. Tone. So I'm actually using this passage to introduce you to biology and pick up those question types which are not asked very frequently, but are foundational. So let's see. So here is my hint for you. I expect most of you to eliminate A and C, and it is eventually going to boil down to B versus D. Okay, I have 3 answers. Give me two more answers and then we'll start. So first up, the author does not end at a positive note. Because he's not ending at a positive note, we can eliminate A and C. Optimistic is when you're hopeful for the future, nothing to indicate that. Compassionate is where you are full of compassion, care, concern towards something else, which is again not a note that has been stuck. Now, because we are talking about red algae, it is not an entity in a conventional sense. It is not like a person. You can be critical of a person. You can be critical of somebody who thinks. That is not how we approach plants, and that's why D can be eliminated and B should be our answer. Okay. Here is the next one. This is your fact-based specific detail question. Let's see what you choose. Okay. Tina has shared. Tina Bina. Tina Bina. Interesting. Rhyme. Okay, so you're absolutely right. The correct answer is indeed option C. And with that, let's dive into the third question. What does garish mean in the context of the passage? And this is stated in the very first paragraph. In fact, look at the very first sentence of the passage and you'd find it there. Okay. Sonali, are we sure? Absolutely, Gautam. You can use the seeker. It's a YouTube session, right? You can always use your seeker to go back to the right part of the passage. You want me to take you there? Here it is. See, it is a shocking, garish sight to come across on a peaceful mountainside. Blood red. So, garish sight. So, let's see. Now, when we talk about drab, drab basically means dull, boring. So even going by that context, do you think we should choose this as our answer? Then you have calamitous. Calamity is a catastrophe, a disaster. So calamitous is disastrous, catastrophic. Then you have heinous. You've heard of heinous crimes. Have you? So what's heinous? Heinous is something which is very evil or bad or odious. And then you have gaudy. Gaudy is something which is, can I say, extravagantly bright or showy. So, you know, there are some things that are so bright that they look cheap. The person who wears them does not look nice. जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना वो तड़कीला भड़कीला चमकीला, वैसा. And garish also incidentally means more or less the same thing, right? So the word garish is once again something which is very bright and showy, ostentatious in such a way that it looks cheap. It does not look at all tasteful. So ऐसी चीज है. Okay, and that is why our answer here should be option D. ड्रैब तो डल हो जाएगा, है ना, वो भड़कीला चमकीला वैसा नहीं रहेगा, तो इसलिए ए रूल आउट कर सकते थे. बी और सी का यार कोई खास लेना देना है नहीं, तो वी कैन वंस अगेन रूल इट आउट. Ashish, it was not referring to the snow, it was actually referring to the fact that, you know, you have this white snow and it creates this peaceful monochromatic vision for you, and then suddenly you have that red algae. That's garish. हाँ, think of रणवीर सिंह के ज्यादातर कपड़े तुम और मैं अगर पहनेंगे तो उनको गैरिश या गॉडी बोला जाएगा. तुम और मैं पहनेंगे, तो रणवीर सिंह पहनेगा तो चलेगा. He can perhaps carry it off. You and I can't. Okay, so here is the next one. Question number 4. The status quo as used in the passage means. And before somebody asks, sir, passage, तुम वैसे जा सकते हो, you can refer to the relevant part, but here it is. Have a look. So read this context and then we can talk about it. So gone through the context. Here is the question. Once again, the status quo as used in the passage means. So status quo basically means the existing condition, okay, or you can say the present situation, right? So for instance, certain people always want to maintain the status quo. They want the things to remain the way they are. चीजें जैसी हैं वो चाहते हैं कि वैसी ही रहें, उन्हें बदला ना जाए, right? So if you look at the options, then the best answer will be option B, right? And here is one last question for you based on this passage, and then we'll move over to a passage which is a little tougher. Will challenge you a little more. So what does the statement, it is as if they are destroying their own house, mean in context of the passage? So this is what I call an idea restatement question. है ना, इसमें the examiner picks up a part from the passage and then asks us what it means. So let me take you back to this part. I'm sure some of you can already do that. It is in the last paragraph. This in fact happens to be the very last line of the sentence, right? It is as if they are destroying their own house. So I've highlighted it for you. Look at the context and then I will take you over to the question once again. Read it? Okay, so here is the question once again. Tell me what your answer is. Done? Yes, D it is. I am absolutely amazed. Fantastic, guys. So now that we have warmed up nice and proper, let's dive into our next passage. So reorient. Biology हो गया. अब अगले passage की बारी. Okay, so you know that I normally prefer taking you through a passage paragraph by paragraph, but in this passage there were two paragraphs which were quite long, so I had to break them across two slides. Please bear with me, please accommodate. So here is the first paragraph. So this is going to be kind of a mix of sociology and psychology, okay? So let's try it. Done? Next. Ritik, you are on fire today, huh? Reading very fast. Good to see that. I hope your accuracy rate is also keeping pace with it. Done? Wow, Anjula, nice. Okay, so here is the next. This is not a next, actually, it's a continuation of the previous paragraph. So, Freud, bhai sahab, bina, defining it as self-sabotage resulting from unresolved trauma. Wow, I did not look at it this way, huh? Ready? Ready for the next paragraph? Here is the next. Fabulous, fabulous, Ritik, Anjila, Ashish. Here is the next. Once again, a lengthy paragraph broken into two slides. Wow, Angela, that's fabulous. This is an interesting paragraph though, huh? Glad to see that you could go through it really fast. Nice job, Ashish. Hey, we seem to have so many ANIs, huh? Kesarwani, Mulchandani, Devani. The friends that I know with these surnames are usually Sindhis. Okay, here is the next. So this is the last part. Last slide. ऋतिक यार एग्जाम में ना टाइम वेस्ट नहीं होता है बेसिकली है क्या अगर आप अपनी रीडिंग स्पीड पे काम करें तो ये पूरा पैसेज ये तकरीबन 500 वर्ड्स का ही है 500 साढ़े 500 वर्ड्स का तो ये पूरा पैसेज आप इवन टुडे अगर आपने रीडिंग स्पीड पे काम नहीं भी किया ना तो भी आप 3 मिनट में कर लेंगे अगर आप रीडिंग स्पीड पे काम करेंगे तो आप 2 मिनट में इसे कर लेंगे लेकिन हाँ 2 मिनट में ना साथ साथ आपको मेंटल ओवरव्यू निकालना ज़रूरी है जैसे मैंने जब ये पैसेज पढ़ा तो अब देखिए मेरे दिमाग में क्या है पैराग्राफ 1 introduces us to great regression. Paragraph 2 talks about the fact that the society thinks of infantile behavior as bad. Paragraph 3 the author says hey हमेशा गलत नहीं होता है जो लोग इसको गलत मानते हैं वो दो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें भूल जाते हैं इसमें दो फीचर्स हैं राइट और फिर उसके बाद में नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ में वो बताता है कि यार ये कॉज एंड इफेक्ट वाला जो उसी पैराग्राफ में दूसरा पॉइंट के कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप ग्रेट रिग्रेशन की वजह से बच्चे बनते जा रहे हैं या लोगों ने कॉन्शियसली डिसाइड किया यार आगे कुछ है तो है नहीं तो बच्चे ही क्यों ना बन जाए और लास्ट पैराग्राफ उसी को थोड़ा रीआइटरेट कर रहा है सो ये जो एबिलिटी है दिस इज द एबिलिटी दैट वी वांट हाँ रिमेंबर द लास्ट लाइन आई हैव नोटिस दैट द इनर चाइल्ड इज नाउ द आउटर पर्सन यार तुम्हारे लिए पता नहीं लॉकडाउन के बाद मुझे तो आदत हो गई पायजामाज और शॉर्ट्स की ट्राउजर्स नहीं पहने जाते वो अपने से हाँ सर ये एबिलिटी है ये आप पैसेज पढ़ पढ़ के जब आप करेंगे ना हर एक पैराग्राफ का की आइडिया बाहर निकालने की कोशिश तो लगेगा 2 हफ्ता 4 हफ्ता 6 हफ्ता मैक्सिमम 8 हफ्ता 10 हफ्ता within for most of us in between 6 to 10 weeks we become pros at it but रोज रोज करना पड़ता है यार हाँ करेंगे तो बिल्कुल हो जाएगा मुश्किल नहीं है ये so here is your question tell me the primary purpose of the passage Ashish, precarious situation is a dangerous situation, a very uncertain situation where you can get harmed. Precarity उसी का नाम उसी का noun form है danger कह लें आप इसे हाँ danger, risk, uncertainty जैसे भी बोलना चाहें Okay, Nishant says A. Tina Bina. It rolls off so nicely off my tongue, huh? Picks up C. So far we are talking about A versus C. Okay, now A says to criticize the return of adults to childish behaviors and comforts, which has been dubbed as the Great Regression. Society criticizes it. The author says that it can also be beneficial. So A contradicts the primary purpose, should be eliminated straight away. Okay. C, to argue that in opposition to its criticism, the Great Regression reflects a beneficial trend. This is kind of about right. Now, why am I saying about right? There are two reasons. Reason number one, if you look at the third paragraph, the author uses a lot of can. Can essentially goes ahead and shows possibility, not a certainty but a possibility. So one of the sentences, in fact the third paragraph begins by telling us that however, under the right circumstances, regression can nourish. So throughout that paragraph he says it can under the right circumstances. So the problem with C is that it says it is definitely a beneficial trend, reflects a beneficial trend, whereas the passage says it can be beneficial under right circumstances. And number two, not everything is positive. Remember the third paragraph, you can push the boundaries of the society through play or through violence, and that violence bit is not right. So to say that it definitely reflects a beneficial trend will be a bit of a stretch. So let's go with C, but is there anything which is better than C? How about D? To undermine the argument of the critics that the great regression is a purely moral failing by pointing out its benefits? No. The critics are not even saying it's purely a moral failing, and it's good that you've ruled it out. How about B? To argue that the great regression can be nourishing, better than C, and to highlight the flaws in the reasoning of its critics. Third paragraph, they miss out on 2 points, and he goes on to talk about those 2 points. So B is actually better than C, and therefore our answer here should be option B. So see that? Subtle things. There are times when the answer choices can be made close that can lead us to a trap. Okay, next one, question number 7. Don't forget to look at the word except. This is just a hint. It is a specific detail question. Let's see how much of the passage you remember. Kid with blonde. Yeah, ye matlab when you choose these screen names, what kind of thought process do you use? I go ahead and use my name everywhere. I should also go ahead and be a little more creative, huh? Let me see. Okay, so if you refer to the second sentence of the second paragraph, you'd find the answer. Let me read it out for you. So Western world says, by traditional standards, the rise of childish sensibilities represents dysfunction and danger. That's D. A rejection of autonomy, a mental illness, or even a society-wide sickness. So rejection of autonomy translates to a refusal to be independent. So C will be covered there. Dysfunction is also mentioned, so D is also covered there. And then there is this part. Remember the Sigmund Freud bit at the turn of the 20th century? Sigmund Freud reframed regression in psychological terms, defining it as self-sabotage resulting from unresolved trauma. I in fact highlighted that as well. So if you look at the second paragraph, these 2 sentences that I've talked about, A, C and D are given or can be inferred. Whereas B, the idea of heightened creativity, is something that the author has stated. It is not used by the Western world. And therefore, because we are being asked for except, 3 of these are consistent with conventions of the Western world, 1 is not, our answer should actually be option B. So all the 4 things are present, but B is not present in the context that the question has introduced us to. So you notice, हमें लगता है यार the specific detail questions हो जाएंगे, but वो context में उसको पढ़ना और retention बनाना ताकि आप सही area पे वापस जा पाए. So you can refer to the right paragraph, the right sentence. That's very important. And I'm sure with enough practice, we'll start doing that, right? Here is the next one. Question number 8. So this is your reasoning based question. So this is the question that we typically know as weaken the argument question. And how do we weaken an argument? भाई बहुत सिंपल सा तरीका है. हर एक आर्ग्यूमेंट में एक कंक्लूजन होता है. उस कंक्लूजन को सपोर्ट करने के लिए कुछ रीजंस दिए गए होते हैं जिन्हें टेक्निकली प्रेमिसेस बोलते हैं. और उस आर्ग्यूमेंट में कुछ अजम्पशंस हो सकती हैं. अजम्पशंस आर invisible premises, unstated premises. So in every argument we have a conclusion which is based on some reasons. The reasons are technically known as premises. Some of those premises are unstated, they are called assumptions. So if you want to weaken, what do? You take a shot at the premises or the assumptions. You try to make the premises or the assumptions appear questionable or wrong. So why does the author think that great regression can pave the way for new ways of thinking and living? Because you're able to tap into that childhood where you can experiment, you can play, and that can help you push the boundaries and find new ways to cope with the strange world, right? But if you look at B says that we are getting into childhood, but we are not getting any experimentation and creative play. This contradicts the author's reason cited behind great regression being good for us. So because it negates a premise, this should be our answer. And by now, if you've gone through the concepts of critical reasoning, this approach should be clear in your mind. But नहीं है तो कोई बात नहीं. अब आ गई वीकनिंग में क्या करना है? आर्ग्यूमेंट को आइडेंटिफाई करना है. आर्ग्यूमेंट में कंक्लूजन क्या है देखना है, वो किन प्रेमिसेस पे बेस्ड है देखना है. फिर आंसर चॉइसेस को पे जाना है और देखना है कौन सी आंसर चॉइस उस प्रेमिस या अजम्पशन को डैमेज करती है. जो आंसर चॉइस ये काम करेगी वही आपका आंसर होगा. और ये ऋतिक यार, तुमने उस दिन एएमए में भी ये क्वेश्चन पूछा था. डैम, उस दिन भी हम लोग भूल गए बताना. आज तुमने यार मेरे ख्याल से तीसरी चौथी बार पूछ रहे हो. यार टीम में से कोई है? अंकित या स्टूडियो, यार अगर कोई हो तो कैन यू प्लीज लुक एट इट. ऋतिक, मैं आज ही द मोमेंट द सेशन गेट्स ओवर, मैं टीम को यार आई विल ड्रॉप इन अ मैसेज और उसके बाद फिर बात करते हैं यार. कल मैं बताने की, हालांकि टीम आज संडे है तो आज हो सकता है अवेलेबल ना हो, बट वो लोग कल आ जाएंगे तो कल मुझे आंसर मिला तो मैं कल आपको बता दूंगा. आई एम सो सॉरी, आई फॉरगॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट इट. हाँ, thank you for your patience. I'll look at it. So 8th answer is B, and here is question number 9, an inference based question about the two forms of regression that the author discusses. Should I take you to the relevant part? एक बार दिखाई देता हूं. These are the two forms that we are talking about here. There is a nourishing form of regression, but there is also a destructive form that manifests as blind rage. So you essentially need to look at the part that I have set off using the square brackets. Read this quickly and then I will go ahead and have a look at it. Done. So let me take you back to the question. Here it is. What's your answer? Fabulous. Fabulous, guys. Fabulous. Yes, both forms are poles apart in their manifestation, in their outward expression. Yes, they are apart, but remember the passage tells us that they both start from that same impulse, the same instinct. So that's why A is wrong. Essentially the same. No, they're different in terms of manifestation. Cannot coexist is something that cannot be determined, and therefore you're absolutely right in choosing C as your answer. So that's the end of the second passage. If you enjoyed working with me, if you like this particular passage, तो यार like ज़रूर दे देना. ये बड़ा important factor हो जाता है कई बार motivation के लिए. हाँ, और food for preparation के साथ साथ food for the mind. हाँ, a positive thought. 99% of failures come from people who make excuses. यार जिंदगी में excuse नहीं देना. मतलब बीमार पड़े, मान के चलो अपनी प्रॉब्लम है. वी आर द रीजन. हाँ, एक्सीडेंट हो गया, अपनी प्रॉब्लम है. एक पर्टिकुलर जगह पे, घर में, एरिया में पैदा हुए, माँ अपनी प्रॉब्लम. दैट्स रेडिकल. हाँ, बट द आइडिया इज लेट्स स्टॉप ऑफरिंग एक्सक्यूजेस. लेट्स बी फियर्सली, let's take this fierce ownership of our lives, and I'm sure absolutely nothing can stop us. Okay, so that's it for this session. If you want more practice, head over to BYJU'S Exam Prep app, where we upload a new section wise quiz every day. Iske alawa, there is this workshop being taken by Saral sir a day after tomorrow. If the topic is relevant for you, it's going to be a must attend workshop. Then if you want to get great percentiles, let us help you. We offer an amazing comprehensive program, but don't take my word for it. You can unlock a 3-day free trial, no cost to you, experience it and then take a call. And thereafter, आज scholarship test भी चल रहा है. You can go ahead and appear for this scholarship test and get up to 90% off. Okay, so that's it from me. We are wherever you are, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, whatever. Make sure that you do subscribe to us and follow us at all of these platforms. I had a lovely time talking to you today. Fabulous to see that. मतलब मैं संडे को आ रहा हूँ पढ़ाने, मुझे तो खैर पढ़ाना है तुम्हें, बट उससे भी ज़्यादा अच्छा मुझे ये लगता है कि तुम संडे को आते हो यार पढ़ने. Hats off to you, man. Amazing commitment. Okay, so that's it. Until I see you next, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. मैं ऐप पे आज टोन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस पढ़ा रहा हूँ 7 बजे. सो अगर आप मेरी क्लासेस का, बैचेस का हिस्सा हैं तो आप ऑलरेडी ये मेरे साथ कर चुके होंगे. पर अगर आप क्लासेस का हिस्सा नहीं हैं और आप टोन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस करना चाहते हैं, सीखना चाहते हैं, तो ज्वाइन मी ऑन द BYJU'S एग्जाम प्रेप ऐप एट 7. राइट? Until then, have fun, have a great day ahead, enjoy your weekend.